Hello world, this is Eric Knowles and I'm here to talk about Lalique perfume bottles part 2. In part 1 I left you with images of bottles designed by Lalique in 1912 and a little later for Roger et Gallet. So I'm going to start with another bottle designed for Roger and Gallet, and as you can see, splendid oriental looking piece. This is for a perfume known as Légende, and Lalique is using a beautiful opaque jade green. Any piece of Lalique with a good solid colour or translucent colour tends to be of that little bit more value. So having said that, I now want to turn my attention to Maison Lalique pieces. Now these are examples that were made by Lalique to sell direct to the public and obviously collectors. And I'm going to start with this particular bottle. It's called Meplat de Figurine. As you can see, it's got a solid glass disc in the centre, and the surround is the reservoir. That's the actual bottle. The stopper has got two maidens with Rapunzel type hair facing alternative ways. So let me just explain that most perfume bottles in the 1932 catalogue, and there are 78 examples listed, are priced at around about 100 francs, whereas Meplat de Figurines weighed in at a hefty 450 francs. So maybe technically it was a tricky one to make, I'm not too sure. Next is an incredible bottle. Well, forget about the bottle, it's all in the stopper with this female nude figure ensnared by barbed branches. Again, is there symbolism here? Is it all about unrequited love? I'm not too sure. But one thing I can tell you, this is described as figurine et épine, and it is something of a rarity, to say the word. I think I've been told, and I believe everything I'm told, that there are no more than about half a dozen known to exist. So if you've got one of these, what you do is you email Eric Knowles at scottishantiques.com, and we'll have a conversation that will be very much in your favour. But moving on, let's have a look at a little bit more in the way of colour. This is Bouchon Cassis, tiara stopper. This one dates to 1920. If that design with a stopper is referred to often as a crescent or a tiara stopper. And here's another. This one in electric blue is known as Bouchon Mûr, whereas the previous one was the stopper was moulded with black currants. This one appears to be moulded with blackberries, although I am told they are mulberries. I've never eaten a mulberry, so I cannot guarantee that to be the case. But again, dating from 1920. From 1 year earlier, something of a showstopper, with an extremely elaborate stopper. This is a Bouchon Pommier de Fleur. It's 14 centimetres high, and it is a real tour de force. So having looked at just a selection of Maison Lalique examples, let's turn my attention now to those examples that were designed for perfume manufacturers. So, designed for Houbigant, this is La Belle Saison. Quite remarkable insofar as it's never been opened. As you can see, the contents have been sealed, and it is in its original presentation box. And the presentation box is good as the day when this was retailed in around about 1925. That is a cardboard box. It's a cardboard box which is emulating shagreen or shark skin. And I'd already sold this bottle empty for £1,000. And this is going back, dare I say, something like 30-something years. I used to say 10 or 15, now I've got to say 30. And either way, I sold it for 100. Either way, let me start that slower again. Either way, I'd sold it empty for £1,000. When I sold that particular bottle with the presentation case, I sold it for £3,000. So that cardboard box added £2,000 to the value of the bottle. Quite incredible. Next, I just love this design. The design for Fourville Le Coral Rouge. Enamelling on Lalique bottles is quite rare, and when you do find it, they're quite sought after. And next, again, a firm favourite of mine, a design for Tourcolon. This is Patalia, and featuring a pierrette, and her face is central to the design with the ruff, and I mean it's just a wonderful piece of sculpture. And I should point out that the two-tone has been achieved not by Lalique, but by the fact that it's half full of perfume. When completely full, a lot of these bottles take on a completely different personality. But a great piece, a lovely piece. I'm staying with enamelling, black enamelling on this bottle. Technically not a perfume bottle. This in actual fact is an atomizer or vaporizer. And this was designed by Lalique under the title of Danseuse Egypte, for the retailers who were Marcas et Badel. And this one dates to 1926. And bearing in mind what had been happening in the earlier part of the 1920s, in the Valley of the Kings and Tutankhamun, it's not surprising that during the 1920s there is this great revival in Egyptian themes, Egyptian revivals in all manner of design, ceramics, jewellery, glass. They all come in for the Tutankhamun touch of magic. And then let me explain this particular bottle, designed in 1924. This is 14 centimetres high, and it was designed for Worth, to take a perfume called Dans la Nuit. In actual fact, it is a clear glass moulded bottle that has been given this matte blue patination. And there are various versions of bottles that were designed by Lalique for this particular perfume of Dans la Nuit. Following that, another example by Worth, using the geometry of chevrons. This is Ver le Jour, and this measures 7.5 centimetres and was designed in 1926. And if I can just move into one more enamel piece, we're leaving Worth for a moment. We're going to look at Lucien Lelong and a bottle designed for Parfum A. And what a tour de force. If ever there was a perfume bottle that was based upon a New York skyscraper or a Chicago skyscraper, this has to be it. And the actual presentation case is chromed and black enamel and measures top to bottom 12 centimetres. Just a jewel of a perfume bottle. And finally, a selection of bottles that were produced for the perfume of Sans Adieu, again for Worth, and these have never been opened. They're in pristine condition, and in technical terms, one is looking more at art moderne than art deco. And if I was to say that whereas Paris was seen as the great influence in 1925 after the Exposition des Arts Décoratifs, which we're going to be looking at later when I give a talk on Lalique architectural pieces, then this is it. So the big influence by 1930 is not Paris, but it's America, and it is industrial designers. And in all fairness, when you look at this range of bottles, they do look like electrical insulators. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but these bottles epitomise the move towards modern. And Lalique, always being his own man, was happy to provide because he would follow fashion. And in all fairness, he was more than happy to bend with the wind. So they are true rarities, but having just shown you a selection of a dozen or more, remember there were 78 possibilities, so we've just really shown the tip of the iceberg. Well, that's the talk. If you enjoyed it, and I hope you have, then please do remember that we do ask if you could possibly make a donation. I know that times are hard for some, but even if it's just £1, we will ensure that it finds its way to the British Red Cross, and in turn that money will then find its way to those people in dire need in these very uncertain times. In the meantime, everybody, look out for my next talk, and I say, in the meantime, look after you and look after yours. Thank you for watching.